Ms. Richens, your next court date is a preliminary hearing starting at 9:30 a.m. on August 26, continuing through August 28th as necessary.
The Utah mom, accused of killing her husband, then writing a children's book about grief to help her sons cope with the loss, is set to finally learn if the state has enough evidence to take her to trial for murder. We have new details from Kouri Richins' latest pretrial hearing as we get you caught up on everything that has happened with the case so far. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. More than 2 years after Eric Richens was found dead inside of the Utah home he shared with his wife Kouri and their 3 children, 34-year-old Kouri Richins may finally have her preliminary hearing. This after accusations that she drugged and killed him. So what we're going to do is we're going to get you caught up on the background of this case, what has been happening so far, because there is a lot there and a lot to get into. Let's actually start, though, from the beginning. So Eric and Kouri Richins, they got married in 2013. They have 3 sons together. Eric operated a masonry business while Kouri worked in real estate flipping houses. Then we go to March 4th, 2022, the most important date here. Kouri says she fell asleep with one of their children. She wakes up. She went to the bedroom where Eric was sleeping, but instead, she found him dead. Now, according to a statement that Kouri wrote for the Summit County Sheriff's Office at the very start of this investigation, she wrote, quote, "Went to hug/cuddle Eric and he was freezing. I put a blanket on him, then gently pushed him and said, 'Eric,' but he didn't respond and his body was heavy and weird feeling. I knew something was wrong. I turned the lights on. He was pale, not breathing. I called 911. She told me to do CPR, pull him off the bed with the sheets, and I did. Then the paramedics showed up and took over from there." Kouri told police that she'd made Eric a Moscow Mule before bed and that he seemed to be acting normally. She also told police that he had a marijuana gummy. The thing is, when Eric's autopsy was performed, it showed that he had 5 times the lethal dose of fentanyl in his system. Richens' housekeeper, a convicted drug dealer named Carmen Marie Lauber, had allegedly confessed to authorities that she supplied Richens with 15 to 30 fentanyl pills on 2 separate occasions approximately 1 month before Eric's death, and said that Kouri paid her about $900 each time. And what's chilling about all of that is that Eric allegedly previously claimed that Richens tried to poison him. Valentine's Day, 2022, said that she gave him a sandwich. He took 1 bite, broke out into hives, and couldn't breathe. Then there was an allegation that years before, Richens gave him a drink while in Greece, and Eric became violently ill. And Eric also allegedly told his family at one point, "If something happens to me, check out Kouri." So investigators, they end up arresting Kouri Richins. More than a year after the murder in May of 2023, she's charged with multiple offenses: aggravated murder, attempted aggravated murder, distribution of a controlled substance, insurance fraud, mortgage fraud, forgery. And what's interesting about that timing too is that just the month prior to her arrest, she made an infamous appearance on local news, ABC4 Good Things Utah, to promote her book, Are You With Me? And this was a book, as I said, that she had written to help her children cope with the death of their father, a death that she is now accused of causing. And in that interview, she said, quote, "My husband passed away unexpectedly last year. March 4th was a 1-year anniversary for us. He was 39. It completely took us all by shock. We have 3 little boys, 10, 9, and 6, and my kids and I kind of wrote this book on the different emotions and grieving processes that we've experienced in the last year." And then she's arrested the next month. Now, authorities believe that Kouri killed Eric to collect on multiple life insurance policies, a financial motive, as we've seen in so many of the cases that we cover here on Sidebar and Law&Crime. So the idea is that she was in financial trouble thanks to this huge purchase of a multi-million-dollar Utah home that was never completed. Kouri wanted to flip the home. Eric was against it. We actually did an episode about Kouri's financial trouble and the legal battle she's going through with Eric's family. I encourage everybody to go back and take a listen to that one to learn more about the allegations of Kouri trying to get her hands on Eric's money. Allegations that she forged his signature on one of his life insurance policies. This was shortly before his death. Stealing from his personal accounts, misappropriating money from his business in the past. All these kinds of allegations. By the way, Eric also allegedly changed his will without Kouri knowing and placed control over his entire estate in the hands of his sister. By the way, when you hear allegations like this, how do you not ask yourself, how well do I really know the people in my life? Really? I mean, it's a scary concept to think about, but it's the truth. But that is why I want to talk to you about our incredible sponsor who may be able to help you out here, TruthFinder. So TruthFinder is a service that can provide actual safety for you guys. And I say that because TruthFinder is one of the largest public records search services in the United States. Their whole goal is to help people like you learn about the people in their lives. And here's how it works. You go on their website, truthfinder.com, and you type in a name. Make it simple, type in my name, Jesse Weber. You type in my name, and within minutes and a paid subscription purchase, you can access unlimited reports that can include information like phone numbers, location history, criminal and traffic records, including possible arrests and criminal convictions. I don't have those, but you get the idea. And you can use TruthFinder to look up information about all sorts of people. New dates, new friends, new people you buy or sell to online. How about the parents of your child's new friend? Can never be too careful. That's the truth. Well, here's the kicker. Right now, you can get 50% off of your first month of confidential background reports if you go to truthfinder.com/LC Sidebar. Hope you check it out. But now, back to court. So Kouri Richins, she pleaded not guilty. A judge denied her bail, so she's been locked up since her arrest in 2023. And she was supposed to have a preliminary hearing in May. A preliminary hearing is where the prosecution has the burden to prove through evidence that probable cause exists that the defendant committed the crime. And you have to present that in order for the defendant to be bound over for a trial. But like I said, she was supposed to have this preliminary hearing in May, but things kind of went off the rails when her defense team announced that they would be objecting to all of the prosecution's planned exhibits.
Yes. Ms. Lazar, let me ask you a direct question.
Yes.
Are you prepared today to waive any foundational or hearsay or other admissibility objections regarding any of these exhibits 19 through 65?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. It seems like what we need to do is just set a continued preliminary hearing where the state is prepared to lay foundation under 1102 and the other rules that would apply to a preliminary hearing for the evidence that it wants to admit. Does that sound about right, Ms. Lazar?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you need to change defendant's position at all with respect to exhibits 1 through 18?
At this point, Your Honor, we object to all of the exhibits.
Prosecutor said he'd had no advance warning that he was going to need to argue whether every single one of his exhibits was admissible, so the hearing was delayed. And then just days later, Sky Lazaro, the lead attorney on Kouri's team, somebody who's actually appeared here on Sidebar, filed a motion to withdraw from the case. The motion read, quote, "The ethical mandate for withdrawal results from an irreconcilable and non-waivable situation. It first emerged from the civil cases in which the firm has been representing Ms. Richens, but is imputed to the firm as a whole and thus requires the firm to withdraw from its representation of the defendant in this criminal proceeding. This matter emerged after the hearing held on Wednesday, May 15, 2024. The court and opposing counsel in the civil matters are being notified today of the firm's withdrawal." Now, there were no details that were given beyond that. Usually you hear language like that when there's some sort of conflict of interest and the lawyer can't represent a client. I will note, however, and we don't know if this has any relation to what happened, but KUTV2 News out in Utah reported that according to court filings, Richens had apparently said some not so nice things about Miss Lazaro during a video conversation, reportedly calling Lazaro a dumb expletive. And Richens' family allegedly claimed that Lazaro's ego was taking over. Well, Kouri Richins now has a new defense team, and this after she was declared to be indigent. So she's now being represented by court-appointed attorneys Wendy Lewis and Kathy Nestor. They've been reviewing the case, and they let the judge know at this latest pretrial hearing that they're going to be ready soon.
We're here for a scheduling conference. Ms. Lewis, I understand you're ready to schedule a preliminary hearing.
Yes, we would like to get that on the calendar.
Once upon a time, it was 1 day, then it became 3 days. Do you have a sense of how many days you need?
We think 1 to 2.
Okay.
Is that wrong? That's what we discussed before.
It is what we have discussed before, Your Honor. I now think 2 to 3.
Okay.
I think the state will be calling 3 witnesses, the same 3 we called at the detention hearing. I think the state wants to do that for a curative effect.
Fine.
Thank you.
We can reserve 3 days and
That's
we'll
fine.
proceed efficiently. Are you thinking in August?
We were thinking actually the week of August 26th, if that works with your calendar.
Definitely works on the 26th and 27th. But this is the way the Constitution works. We'll just make it happen. All right. Preliminary hearing, August 26, 27, and 28.
And as I mentioned during that preliminary hearing, the state will present some of its evidence, whatever it thinks is enough to convince the judge that this case should go to trial. Preliminary hearing, by the way, is almost mirroring in many ways what an eventual trial will look like in a way, because usually the evidence that's presented in a preliminary hearing will be presented in a very similar way at a future trial. Now, we also want to talk about another motion that Sky Lazaro and her team filed with the court, along with their motion to withdraw. And that motion was they wanted the prosecution off the case too. The motion includes an email from Kouri's team to the Summit County Attorney's Office from December, and it says, quote, "I discovered this morning while reviewing discovery on Box that the jail has been listening to and recording Kouri's jail phone calls to Ramsey, and they are produced on Box. Did you know that this was happening? Ramsey is clearly an attorney of record in the criminal case and the DCFS case, so I'm concerned." Ramsey Hamadi, by the way, is a member of Kouri's legal team, so clearly there's a concern regarding attorney-client privilege communications. The motion says, quote, "In the series of responses that followed, Summit County Attorney Brad Bloodworth, who is now lead counsel in this case, stated Ramsey refuses to register for and use the HomeWave app that shields attorney-client calls. His calls are therefore recorded as any other call." Mr. Bloodworth goes on to state that the prosecution has been listening to at least a portion of the calls between Kouri and defense counsel since May 2023, and the entire prosecution team had been in possession of the calls for the entire period between May 2023 and December 2023. He further took the position that because defense counsel had not downloaded the HomeWave app, it seems that Ramsey consented to the state maintaining the recordings. Defense counsel responded, "Whether or not Ramsey uses the HomeWave app, attorney-client privilege calls are in the possession of the prosecution team, which is the concern. Both Kouri and defense counsel believe that calls between them were privileged and that the state was not listening and did not have possession of them." By law, that's true, right? It's usually attorney-client privilege communications. They can't be discovered, they can't be a part of a litigation, the other side can't know about them. However, there is an exception if that conversation happened in the presence of a third party. It's almost you're waiving the privilege. Now, in the end, the district attorney ended up removing the privilege material from where the prosecution could access it, but you could also say, is that just too little too late? The prosecutors insist that once they heard Ramsey Hamadi's name mentioned, they stopped listening to any calls, but Kouri's team says they violated her rights by possibly accessing privileged communications between her and her lawyer. The damage is done. The Summit County Attorney's Office responded to the motion to disqualify, saying this was filed in bad faith. In a press release, they said the SCAO will address RQN's filing, RQN is the initials of the law firm representing Kouri Richins, of the motion at the appropriate times and in the appropriate forums. The SCAO is aware that some anxious news agencies have reported on the motion before the SCAO has had sufficient opportunity to respond. The SCAO appreciates the news agencies that have taken a more professional and responsible approach. By the way, on the subject of Richens being locked up and whether the government is finding anything, last year, prosecutors accused Kouri Richins of witness tampering after a letter addressed to her mother, Lisa Darden, was found in her jail cell. The letter allegedly instructs Richens' brother to testify falsely about how Eric got the drugs. Quote, here is what I'm thinking, but you have to talk to Ronnie. He would probably have to testify to this, but it's super short, not a lot to it. Eric told that he got pain pills and fentanyl from Mexico from workers on the ranch. So in other words, trying to link Eric's death to the drug trade in Mexico. Well, Richens has denied wrongdoing with this letter and claimed that what she wrote in that letter was part of a fictional mystery book that she was writing about time served in a Mexican prison. Court documents read, quote, its audience, content, and purpose are readily apparent. The defendant is asking her mother to facilitate witness tampering involving her brother, seeking to have her brother support a false factual narrative. This came, by the way, after authorities said that Richens had held up a letter on a video call with her mom so she could take pictures of it. She also read to her mother a letter addressed to her by another inmate, and apparently these letters haven't been found. And by the way, the state ended up filing a motion to cut off contact between Richens and her mother and her brother, but the court did not agree. They said that this did not amount to witness tampering. Now let me end this discussion on Kouri Richins with this. Essentially, Kouri Richins has just broken her silence. Yes, after her attorneys asked to withdraw, Kouri apparently sent out audio recordings to some media outlets. And she said, quote, they took an innocent mom from her babies, and this means war. I've been silent for a year, locked away from my kids, my family, my life, living with the media telling the world who they think I am, what they think I've done, or how they think I've lived. And it's time to start speaking up. She claimed that the prosecutors in this case will do anything they can to prolong this process and hide their corruption. And then, regarding Lazaro and her firm's withdrawal of the case, Richens claimed, my defense team has been forced to withdraw from my case. Represented or not, we all know and should understand there's only so much I can say. But what I will say is this withdrawal was not my choice, and it was not a personal choice of any counsel on my defense team. Her statement goes on to say, although I am extremely disappointed where we're at right now with this case, I'm anxious to prove my innocence, I'm anxious to get to trial. Who I really am, and all that matters, is a wife of Eric Richens and a mom to 3 beautiful boys. What I've really done is to protect Eric at all costs. What I really didn't do is murder my husband. I could not and would not ever do that to Eric or anyone for that matter. I'm asking the world to give me a chance. Give me a chance to prove it to you. And she will have that chance when this goes to trial. And of course, she is innocent until proven guilty. But again, Kouri will have her first attempt to do this. She'll be back in court with her new defense team at the end of August for that preliminary hearing. Can they convince the judge that there's not enough evidence to bound her over for trial? We'll see. And we will keep you updated on what happens right here on Sidebar. That's all we have for you right now, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.